Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and most importantly, getting into the chat and letting me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. On today's show, we're going to be talking about some of the transfer news that came out earlier today. It feels weird talking about transfer news before the season even really ends. Like we're, couple months away, but because we have a new sporting director and he's getting right to work, we have things to talk about. So like I said, make sure you guys get into the chat. Let me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. And as always, let me know if you can see me and hear me and all that kind of stuff. That's super important because sometimes, we have the technical difficulties on this side. Let's see. Yeah, I think you guys can see me. Matt G says, all I ask from BERTA and the club is to do business early. Please don't spend the summer chasing Isak only for him to stay at Newcastle and we have to scramble to bring in somebody last minute. Speaking of that, there was a little report that came out, I think from Charles Watts, saying that the interest in Gyökeres, which we've spoken about it. David Ornstein had tweeted a couple of days ago on Sunday actually that Arsenal their interest in Gyökeres is becoming bigger. And I think that was a little bit maybe of like a surprise because we've been lightly linked to Gyökeres, but nothing super substantial. And when Ornstein says something, it tends to mean something, or at least it's a little bit more credible. Charles Watts said today that the interest in Gyökeres is being driven by Andrea BERTA, and that it may take some convincing to get Arteta to get on board with this and to forego his historical interest in Alexander Isak. And so I want to start here because there are reports that Arsenal have already started talks with Victor Gyökeres. And I would imagine that, if Ornstein is talking about the interest, then that means that we're going to start moving, towards that. We're going to start pushing towards that. Andrea BERTA's arrival has made Victor Gyökeres a really strong contender to join Arsenal this summer, which wasn't necessarily the case prior, which is exactly what I was saying. The Italian rates him extremely highly, dating back to his time at Atletico Madrid, right? And so now it's like the layers are going on top. Ornstein says it. He doubles down and says, with more clarity that this is something that Andrea BERTA is really pushing for. Charles Watts says it's true. We do want him, that kind of thing. But, Arteta might need some convincing. And now there are reports about this talks are already starting. I would imagine that Arteta and BERTA are not going to necessarily 100% agree with every single thing. That's not how it works. When you have strong personalities in the room, you're going to get differences of opinion. You're going to get differences of opinion, but you're going to have to come to some sort of happy medium and always focus on what's best for Arsenal. One thing that I always felt like was happening towards the end of Edu and Mikel was that Arteta lost trust in Edu so much so that he'd rather go with nothing. Whatever Edu was bringing as a second, third, fourth choice was so far away from what Mikel would want in his team that he just said, I'll just go with whatever I got, or let's just go get a Sterling or something like that. So I think that, going from Isak to Gyökeres makes a lot more sense in terms of what we're looking for, the level of striker and things like that, instead of going from Isak to nothing, which is essentially what's happened in the last two windows. We're meant to go get an attacker, we're meant to go get a striker, and we end up getting nothing because they can't agree or they can't move or they have these lofty ideas of bringing in Alexander Isak. Somebody needs to tell Mikel right now that we're not getting Alexander Isak. Whether they make Champions League or not, it's not happening. I just don't see um it. I just don't see it. I really, really don't. Um, so it is what it is. He's way too expensive. Newcastle probably won't sell him whether they make Champions League or not. Ornstein has already kind of put a lot of cold water on that in terms of anybody getting him. So instead of waiting around, like Matt said earlier on, that waiting around to see if we can maybe get Isak, and then the summer is like halfway done and then we scramble to get somebody or get nothing. That can't happen. The first thing that needs to come through that door is the striker. Nothing has changed. That striker needs to come in early. And so if the early feeling, I feel like it's better to move on another, because if you wait on Isak and get halfway through and like fail just on bullshit, putting in bids that are lower and, getting knocked back, and then the media gets a hold of it and then gets ugly, other people will go out there and start getting the Seskos and the Gyökeres. Because again, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool are all looking for a striker. So essentially, what will end up happening is we'll end up with nothing. So I think it's better to be a little bit more aggressive with your choices and get going rather than hoping and dreaming of something that's never going to happen. And so if Arteta needs to be convinced, hopefully having somebody by his side that has a proven track record of identifying top strikers for Atletico for 12 years, something that we have never had at Arsenal, by the way, under Mikel Arteta. The striker situation, whether it's people coming from our academy to, bringing people in, we have not done well with strikers. We just haven't, so hopefully having somebody like BERTA on his side will kind of soften him up a little bit in terms of, so he's not so rigid with this number one choice, so much so that we are inactive in the window and we're unmoving almost to the detriment, because then we don't get what we need, or we miss out on Gyökeres and Sesko and end up with bullshit, So I think talks underway for Gyökeres is a good sign, because I just want us to make a fucking decision. I just want us to make a decision, double down on it, and go. And I know that a lot of fans are not into the Gyökeres signing, not sexy enough. He's not from the right league. His name is not Alexander Isak. He doesn't remind them of Henry. But at the club right now, we don't have a single striker. So we're not really in a position to be sitting here like, oh, well, it has to be Isak. It's not going to be Isak. I don't know why I still see people saying, no, I'd prefer Isak. We'd all prefer Isak. We'd all prefer Isak. I'd prefer $1 million in my pocket, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get it. Nobody's going to hand it over to me, So I think we need to be realistic. The reality is that we're probably not going to get Isak. We're definitely not getting Isak. And we'll probably get 4 signings, maybe 5, one of which is going to be a goalkeeper. And so keeping that in mind, going after somebody that's going to cost us around 60 million opens up opportunities for us to make sure that we get the other things done that are a must get done. They are a must get done. Midfielder, winger, those things got to get done, So yeah, I like the fact that I'm hearing that the talks are already going. Get it done, Let's see. Johnny says Isak was way below Jesus at the time. Excuse me. Red Steppa says you can buy Sesko and Gyökeres for the price of Isak. Abdilo says when Isak was available, Arteta wanted Jesus as his number one target, so he needs to get over it. Shamaria says Isak is staying at Newcastle. It's so obvious. I think so as well. Simba says the source for Gyökeres is pretty reliable. They refers to the Quenda news. Boss J says BERTA putting his stamp on things. We live to see it. Arteta will have no excuse come the new season, in my opinion. Let's see. And Johnny says, oh, sorry. What's the problem with Arteta again? This guy has only problems. Probably his fault. Magalhaes is injured. I wouldn't say it was his fault that Gabriel got injured. I just feel like we need a strong voice in the room that could say, you're not getting Isak. This is what you're getting. Because we can't go another summer without a striker. And Gyökeres is the next best thing after Isak if you want to go for somebody that is more proven and a little bit more seasoned. He's in his prime. He's not past his prime, like not gearing towards past his prime like an Ollie Watkins. And he's not too green where we're not quite sure what the level is actually going to be in the Premier League. Like, I think to a certain extent, you can imagine what Gyökeres will be like. Is the Premier League more intense and more physical? Yes, but this is not some little, nothing, a little guy that's, would struggle. He is at least 6'1", 6'2". He's stocky, he's pretty quick. He has decent skill level. He can strike through the ball. He scores a shit ton of goals and gets quite a few assists. So we just have to kind of go with what's the best next best option. And that's probably going to be Gyökeres, so he's available, which Isak is not, So yeah, let's see. And I do agree with the no excuses next season because he will have attackers. And so I'm not trying to hear that shit. Shamaria says early signs are indicating that BERTA will not mess around. True Gunnar says, Jess, how are you? I'm really good. Thank you so much for asking. Hugo says, big up, Jess. Hope you're well. Smash the likes. Come on, you Gunnar. Yeah, make sure you guys are, smashing the likes and all that kind of stuff. I really appreciate it. Demore says, if a DM from Spanish leg is banging in GOA, I don't know what that means. Red Steppa says, I don't believe Arteta is as steadfast on Isak as the media make out. And did you see the William links? We will get to that as well. We're going to be talking about the Gyökeres situation, the Williams situation, Juan Garcia, and also we'll also look at the Xavi Simons stuff too, because I'm just now seeing that. But yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty decent about what we're seeing so far, because the reality is that we need to get things done sooner rather than later. We cannot just be sitting here thinking that, we're going to have all this time. We know that the summer goes by quick, deals take time. So get in there and get to negotiating. There will obviously, be conversations around, people are already putting out the list of, if we get out Gyökeres, Nico Williams, Zubamendi, and Juan Garcia, is that enough? I get it. I totally understand that that's not maybe the summer that people are looking for. Like, they want bigger names or more names or something. But again, you got to think realistically about some of this shit. You have to think what is actually feasible for Arsenal to get done. 4 or 5 signings, one of those being a goalkeeper, for me feels quite doable. And I think Zubamendi does come in. I think Gyökeres ends up being our number 1 target for a striker. We're interested in Nico Williams. If anything else comes in, is it going to be a left back or is it going to be a creative midfielder? I don't know, so yeah. And then we'll also sell some players. So, that will be something too. Demore says, if a DM from the Spanish league in goals for Gyökeres will do well in Arsenal, we just need a good striker. So yeah, make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. Let's talk a little bit about Nico Williams. There's said to have been talks for him as well, which I'm like, let's really get into it. So this is coming from Santi J. Santi J says a meeting took place in the last days between Nico Williams' representatives and Andrea BERTA, the new sporting director for Arsenal. I don't know if we ever held talks with Nico Williams before with Edu, but it always just kind of seemed like we wanted him, but nothing was happening. I want us to just go get him. If you want him, go get him. If you want to negotiate. Like, what are we waiting on? We've been linked to this guy for a million fucking years. Can you just get in the booth and talk to this guy? Like, what is going on? So that's also, good news as well. And also shows that, BERTA is not fucking around. Like, we want him. He also has a firsthand experience around Nico Williams, by the way. This is somebody that, was 12 years in La Liga. So he will have seen Nico Williams over the last couple of seasons. He will have paid a lot of attention to him when he's playing for Spain. So he would not go for somebody that he's had firsthand experience watching play in La Liga if he was asked, right? So getting that stamp of approval maybe is a good thing. And when you look at the left wing market again, it's really not that good. So you have to look at it from the perspective of, okay, what's actually available? Talking about Barcolas and Doués and guys like that are not leaving PSG and PSG would not sell. It's not even worth talking about. You got the Semenyos, who to me for 70 million is just not that good. He's not that guy. Everything else is like kind of like you're just making shit up. So in terms of the more raw up and coming type of guys, Nico Williams is probably the best option out there. And you have to imagine that with a better team, he would do better, and that's not to say that he's suffering at Bilbao or like so bad, but he's a very, very good young player that just needs a little bit of refinement. That's how I'll say it, refinement. This is coming from Ed Aarons. Ed Aarons says Arsenal eye summer move for Bilbao's Nico Williams after initial talks with the player's agent. Martin Zubimendi is expected to complete a 50 million pound move, with Thomas Partey and Jorginho likely to depart when their contracts expire. So, yeah, we are fully in motion. We are fully in motion. I am very much so interested in this Nico Williams link, because I know that Martinelli had a fabulous game yesterday, and I'm hoping that he keeps up this form. This is the best that he's looked since the 2022-2023 season. He has not had a performance in anywhere close to that season since then. So I'm happy for him in that, and then maybe he can string together some good performances. Martinelli, if he can keep up that level and you add Nico Williams to it, and maybe you can sell a Trossard, we're in a pretty strong position when it comes to wing options. Maybe you can still bring in somebody else, or maybe Ethan, ends up being, a true option there. But Saka, Martinelli, and Nico Williams is good. Those are three really good wingers for Arsenal that give you different things, but ultimately even Nico Williams can play on the right. So we're in a better position than we are now, where we don't really have somebody else that can play on the right that we feel comfortable with. Martinelli looks weird there. Trossard looks weird there. Sterling looks like shit everywhere. So I like the Nico Williams link. I am not, against it at all. I really do think that people are thinking too hard when it comes to Nico Williams. He is not the finished article, but the raw talent is there. And yes, he offers different things than Martinelli. That's going to give us a different option, in terms of not being such a one-trick pony, so I like it. I like it a lot. I'm very much so in the seat with that. Shamaria says we are flirting with him before nothing concrete. Shalom all, says Terrence Tibbs. What about Isak? What about him? We're not getting Isak. We're not going to spend 120 million on one player that's not even really truly available. There's literally nothing about Isak. Simba says, BERTA's transfer sagas are always public, even back at Atleti, and Ornstein not the only reliable person. So this is the new normal. Johnny says Semenyo is synonym with Bournemouth's progress. He is a bit quiet in 2025. There were also the team's form. I get what you're saying. Martinelli is an imposter. It was only Fulham. John says, I hope Partey stays one more year and then Jorginho leaves. I think they're both going to leave, which I'm totally okay with. Johnny says, I don't even know if it was Fulham. Ash says, respectfully, F Isak and move on. And why are we letting Poole get him? There's no indication that he's going to leave at all. And I don't know why we get very fixated on one player, and we almost perform and act as though that player belongs to us. We have no right to Isak. There's never been a credible link that said that we're going into talks with him or anything outside of the January window that came and went a couple of years ago before he even got to Newcastle. Liverpool are interested, but there's nothing that says that they're going to get him. They're going to put in a bid, that they're in talks or anything. They're just interested. And Ornstein keeps repeating over and over and over and over and over that it is highly unlikely that Newcastle will be interested in selling him with or without Champions League football. So I'm not sure why we've gotten to the stage where Arsenal fans are so obsessed with this one player that they cannot see realistically that we have no chance of getting him, not because we're not a good team or because, well, it's literally because he's not available. He's quite literally not available. And we are not in a position where we can just spend 120 million on one player, because then you guys would be crying about not getting a winger, not getting a midfielder, not getting this, not getting that. And if Isak comes for the 120 million, we don't get other things because he was so expensive, and then he gets injured like he always does. We're going to be looking at a front line of Saka, Kai Havertz, and Martinelli again. So respectfully, we need to let this go. Like, it is nearing to a point where it's like sickness. We have no right to Isak, not at all. He is a Newcastle player. He will probably continue being a Newcastle player. Even if he tries to force a move out, they are under no requirement to sell a player just because they agitate for a move. He can talk to Liverpool all he wants. Liverpool can talk to him all he wants. If Newcastle don't want to sell, then they don't have to. We must leave it. We had an opportunity to get him and we missed out. I really don't get it. It's getting to the stage where I really think people need to seek help, because they really do feel like he's our player, and he's not our player. He's not. He never will be. Terrence says, didn't we spend 120 million on a midfielder and a left back? Who cares? He's not available. That's what people are not getting. It's not even just about the fee. The fee is prohibitive on its own with what we have to do this summer anyway. But he's not available. That's the point. I'm not quite sure why people think he's available. How many times does Ornstein need to say that Newcastle don't want to sell him? If they don't want to sell him, they don't have to. The difference between buying Declan Rice and buying Isak is Declan Rice was available. They wanted to sell, so I'm still trying to understand. He's not available. He's not available. You guys, seriously, let it go. Let it go. If we had strengthened the attack last summer, then maybe we could entertain Isak, but not with how much attacking reinforcement is actually needed. Johnny says, Liverpool doesn't have our money this summer. I think nobody on the planet has our money this summer. John says, if we get through the quarterfinals, what do you think we'll do with the 105 million? I don't know, but it's not going to be spending it on Isak. I don't know why people are so obsessed with this one person. There are plenty of teams on this planet that do not have Isak that perform better than us in the attacking third. There are other players available. What is the obsession with this one player? Just, do you think we'll get Zubimendi? Yes. Demore says, I'm more impressed with BERTA's sell record at Atletico. We need to start selling players for good prices, like he was able to get Felix to leave after he flopped for a very good price. He was available and we passed on him, and we just need to move on from it. I could understand more if Ornstein was saying that there was a chance, but I just think about it if we were in Newcastle's position. And we already won a trophy this season. We're on the edges of making Champions League. He has many years left on his deal. It's not like he has 1 year left. He has 3 years left on his deal or something like that. And the fact that there's no indication that he is 100% going to agitate if they don't make Champions League. And we don't have to sell. We're the richest club in England due to our owners. We're on the edges of making Champions League. It makes no sense to sell our best player to anybody around us anyway. So if you just think about it in reality, it's not going to happen. It's just not a thing, It's just not a thing. I don't know why people, I think that's another reason why people cannot get around to the idea of other strikers, is because they think Isak is our player, and he's quite literally not. Theo says, we wouldn't be in that situation if we took care of the forward line years ago. Gyökeres was available last year. We chose a left back and a CM, not recruiting a series forward since Jesus was insane. Dabuki says, accepted. We're getting Gyökeres now. At least no more Havertz center forward. Hope we pair Gyökeres with a Jesus profile like Cunha. The problem with Isak is he gets injured frequently, just like Jesus. And if you know our luck, he'll be injured for the whole season, knowing us. Like, I just think like there's just too many things that make this such an unlikely transfer that I'm just not quite sure why people are still stuck at the station. It's 2025. It is what it is. Like, we're probably not going to get Isak, and it is what it is. I'm having a hard time understanding it. Johnny says, I think that's how BERTA was convinced. The defense is the best in the world and only the offensive part needs an overhaul. This summer, where he has the most money in the world, follows suit. Chemist Saint says it would definitely be better to spread the money around. I mean, it's not even about like it's like we actually have to, and we have no choice. Many of you guys have already said, I put your comments up, that we haven't looked at the attack in seasons. The only forwards that Arteta has ever bought are Jesus and Trossard. Because Havertz wasn't even a forward to begin with. He was meant to fill in for Granit Xhaka. So when you think about it in that capacity, the only attackers that you bought in the time that you've been here for 5 years, is Gabriel Jesus and Trossard. You were gifted Martinelli and Saka. You were gifted Ethan. What? So we are backed up. The attack has to constantly be refreshed. It needs constant refreshment, and we haven't even gotten the first thing done. That first overhaul, we haven't even done that. So we're not even in the refresh mode. We're in the build it from scratch mode still. So there is no world where we can buy, I guess, what you would consider an injury likely forward for 120 million, and not because no matter how you spin it, spending 100 and something million on one player is going to impact your ability to get other things done. And Arsenal are not going to pass up on getting another goalkeeper and another left back. So it only takes a little bit of brain cells to figure out what's not going to get done. It's probably another winger, So I just think it is what it is, guys. We had our opportunity and we didn't get him. We just need to move forward. There's like a million other teams out there that don't have Isak that are good. Like, what is the obsession? Rather get Verts than Isak. We're struggling creating through the middle. No idea why people are obsessed with Isak. There are plenty of other players on the market. Shirky, Ekitike, Gyökeres. John P says, I think the big players are easy to identify. I want to see how BERTA replaces Tommy, Tierney, etc. Buying usable in big game squad players. Buying usable in big game squad players for bargain prices is always the big test for me. Zubin, Gyökeres, Williams, Garcia, and Nipin rate out of 10 because I really think that'll happen now. I'll get to that at the end, so I have more to talk about. Simba says, sorry, Jess, you have to articulate the obvious, but Arsenal fans will never let transfers go. And there's always like the element of the one that got away because we've had so many in our history. But we need to move forward. There is life after not getting an Isak, so I just don't see it, why it's so important to people to get this one person. And then like that has shifted over to Ekitike because they want a certain type of forward. They want to relive the Henry days, and that's just not going to happen. Henry was available all the time. He was, he scored loads of goals. He got loads of assists. He was good at everything. It's just, you're never going to get another Thierry, so what we can do is go get somebody that likes to put the ball in the back of the fucking net, and that's what I'm looking for, point blank, period, Keto says, I think Isak just looks and feels like an Arsenal player. Even when he runs, he kind of looks like Henry, but that's exactly why Newcastle aren't going to sell him. 100%. Why would they? Ben Ross says, Isak has balled out this year, but his injury record has always been a concern. A lot of people are fixated on Isak because of his form, and variable remain. There are other options for us. It's calm. Johnny says, I don't know anymore what Havertz was meant to be. In Sandra Bullock's Demolition Man words, he can shovel it. And Elcat says, Xabi Simmons and Nico plus Gyökeres. I don't care what we do in mid. So I think we're, like, I'm not trying to be harsh because I know there'll be somebody that's like, "Oh my gosh, Jess, you're being so mean." But I'm just the Isak thing just it just I just don't know why we can't like move on. Do you know what I mean? From a link that was never solidified. Like we have at most been considered admirers of Isak, but there was never any sort of indication that we would actually go after him, you know? So I think we just have to like swallow it, like, we didn't get him and that sucks, but we'll be okay. So hold on. So David Ornstein said that striker is a priority, but not the only priority position. They have a long wanted wide attacker winger. Midfield needs to be addressed. They are going to need 1 to 2 goalkeepers with Neto going back and set for potentially being loaned. So nobody wants to hear 1 to 2 goalkeepers. That makes me want to gag. But we know so the wide forward is super important. And that's where Nico Williams comes in the striker. David Ornstein said that all the interrogation we have done suggests that Arsenal expects Zubimendi to arrive in the summer. So there's that. So there's a couple of little tidbits there for you. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Let's see. I'm just making sure I haven't missed out anything. Hand of Ozil has been very kind of like reliable this, for the last couple of, you know, maybe a couple of months, maybe to a year since he's been kind of reporting on stuff. So I'll put this one out here, but just know it's coming from it in the know and not an actual journalist. If you guys know who he is on social media, then he's been getting a lot of things right. But he said that Arsenal have Juan Garcia set as the number 1 target to challenge David Raya next season. It is my understanding there was a verbal agreement last summer, and Juan literally had his bag packed on deadline day, only for the move not to materialize. Contact has remained throughout the season, and people close to the player say he is rather fired up about the prospect of challenging his Spanish compatriot, despite several offers to immediately play first team. For a while now, the deal has been at a standstill, with Arsenal having done a huge amount of the groundwork. While they finalize the sporting director, the file is now formally on Andrea Berta's desk, who will make a joint decision with the senior decision makers whether or not to proceed in negotiating and closing the deal or pivoting to cheaper targets. So there's that, with the Juan Garcia thing. And I wonder why it didn't get done last summer. I personally think that Edu didn't want to do it. I think he might have, like everybody else, kind of thought that, it was too expensive, or not as important as it should have been. They're really pushing for this goalkeeper. I know Arteta and Inaki Kanya are like obsessed with this guy. It's just a matter of how expensive, he ends up being. 20 something for a goalkeeper when we need like a million other things is hard. Is a tough pill to swallow. It was a tough pill to swallow last summer when we were talking about it, and it's gotten no easier this summer. So this coming summer. So we'll see what Berta does. Mail says, from Simon Jones, says Arsenal have stepped up their efforts to sign goalkeeper Juan Garcia from Espanyol after further talks last week. My thing is, if you want him, just fucking get him. Like, I'm tired of talking about this guy. I don't give a fuck. I really, really don't. I don't want to do this goalkeeper charade where we're doing back and forth and, we're going to have 2 goalkeepers going head to head, dual number 1s. I'm not into that shit. I'm really not. Call me old man shouting out cloud. I don't care about the backup goalkeeper. But if you want him, go get him, because I'm tired of hearing about him. Now, because people are being disingenuous online, like they always are. This guy is the best goalkeeper in La Liga, and Arsenal fans didn't want him. They don't know anything. That's not the truth. Arsenal fans don't have a problem with you bringing in a good goalkeeper. The issue was that it was taking precedent and priority over an attack that is falling down like a crusty old shack in the wind. You know what I mean? So when you think about priorities of as good of a signing as Calafiori was, it didn't hit the same because we hadn't done anything up front. So nobody is like not wanting Juan Garcia because they don't think he's good. He's been the best goalkeeper in La Liga this season. I would love to take the best goalkeeper in La Liga this season, but it depends on the price. And if you want it, just get it done because I'm not trying to hear about this. Backup goalkeeper, number 2 goalkeeper, really just is not, you know what I mean? It's like it's not anything, so just get it fucking done, so, but I think BERTA will be the type of person that will get it done, get it done quickly. If it's something that they're like, they are obsessed with this guy, just get it done, fuck, we've been talking about him for a million years. John P says, I heard his price came down to 15 million this summer, which is a good price for him. It only comes down if they get relegated, Espanyol. And they're like 2 points from the relegation zone. So if they stay up, I don't think that it'll change the price, which makes sense, right? Looking at the table, Espanyol are 2 points above the relegation zone. So let's see. Red Skull says, thoughts on Mohamed Amora as a backup for Saka. Who the fuck is that? I don't know who that is. Who does he play for? Wolfsburg? Who? Mohamed El Amora is an Algerian professional footballer who plays striker for Wolfsburg on loan from somebody. He's 24. He's short. He's like 5'6", which isn't a big deal. It's like Liverpool have been linked to him at some stage. Where'd y'all get this from? Where'd you guys get this from? This person? Are we linked? Like, who is he? I've never seen him before, so I can't give any sort of. Oh, I see it now. Arsenal adds Bundesliga star to their. Is he a star? Arsenal, Bundesliga. Is he a striker or a winger? New Riyad Mahrez, they say. Okay. Yeah, I've literally never seen this child play, so I cannot give anything to this conversation. But you guys, if you've seen him play, let me know what you think about him. Well, exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, who the f- is that? One thing about me, I do not like the Bundesliga. It feels like I'm watching it feels like I'm watching the Austrian league. So you probably won't catch me watching it unless I'm being forced to. So I don't know who he is, man. John P says, or John V, or sorry, John D. Johnny D says Valencia won't get relegated for sure. It's a team I liked almost as much as Arsenal 2 decades back. Boxy says Amora will be in the Prem. Great talent. Thoughts on, I don't know who that. I am gay. Come on now. Vic says we should try for Shirky, 33 million, creative monster with both feet. Bun the attitude issues. We can't believe those reports. He's 33 million on transfer market. There must be a reason why. Chelsea hasn't touched him, and they'll touch anybody. Pause. So, there must be a reason why no one has went after him. I think everybody can see that Jerky is a really good player. We've just never been linked. It's never looked like, we've literally never ever been linked to him, and I'm not quite sure why that is. So, but nobody will touch him. Somebody will take a risk on him, though, I'm sure. So, let's see. Now, Fabrizio Romano said yesterday that Arsenal are among clubs that are well informed of the situation of Xavi Simons. He could leave Leipzig for a fee about 60 million. Informed, could leave, whatever, so now do we need a player like this? I think that's more of the question. And like I've said before, when we let Fabio and Emil go, I do think that we left ourselves incredibly short with creativity. I think we need to supplement Odegaard. Replacing him doesn't solve anything. You can't just have one creative player in the team at a time. We already saw yesterday that just with a little bit of movement and Saka coming back, we look like a different team. If you add another creative player in there that you can bring him off the bench or play him on a wing position and add something different, then you're adding more, you're timesing it by something instead of just replacing little pieces. That doesn't help, so having somebody like this that you can put in the game when you're chasing a goal or you're trying to break down a deep block, I do think would suit Arsenal. It just is it's just about I think the fee and whether or not this player can play in the Prem and things like that. Xavi Simons is a good player. A couple of years ago when we were linked to him, I thought we should get him. Now, because we have so many other things to do, because that was right after we had first challenged. So that summer, I think the focus was more get an attacker, get the midfield sorted, and get another defender. We're still kind of in that same spot, but now we had to add 2 attackers. So this is like kind of like an extra signing that I would like to see Arsenal get done. It just depends on who the player is. Now, I like Xavi Simons. I also did some research on Bilal El Khanous. I think he's at Leicester. Bring for like 40 million. If that's the fee that we could get him for, bring, bring, bring. Like, yeah. Go pillage the teams down at the bottom and go bring me El Khanous. Like, I think he looks the business. Now, I haven't watched a lot of Leicester, but watching clips of him, I will be watching more of Leicester to see what the tea is on him, because y'all were asking me about him the other day and we were linked. That's a good player there, Moroccan baller. Let's fucking go. Like, yeah, bring. Beyond the 28th, people were saying that we were leading the race to get him, and I'm like, period. Bring. So yeah, it just depends. I think this player will probably not end up being super expensive if we do bring him in. I'd prefer like an El Khanous or something like that over a Nipin, because Nipin probably needs like a loan. Like, he looks very, very, very raw. So yeah, we will see, but bring. If Everton wins today, I might start hoping again. Zach says, haha, the way she said bring. Dennis says, I like BERTA already. We need someone who got straight to business and not gaslight us all summer. Maxwell says, I have that. Some people don't think Gyökeres will suit our playing style. Do you think he will suit our play style, or will he have to change it to suit him? Can I keep it so fucking real with you guys when it comes to the playing style thing? I think our playing style at the minute, there's no one else that plays like us, really. City is probably the only team that plays similarly to us. Nobody plays like us. So you're going to find it very difficult to find players that play up against mid to deep blocks almost like not like 50% of the games. I don't think that the playing style thing is that big of a deal, because anybody coming into our team is going to have to adapt to our playing style. Declan Rice didn't play anything like our playing style. West Ham and Arsenal couldn't be any fucking different. Arteta, it's like it couldn't be any fucking different, but Declan came in and learned our style, and it was fine, so I'm not quite I think people are trying to find any sort of reason why Gyökeres would not play well for Arsenal, because they are so obsessed with Alexander Isak that anybody outside of Alexander Isak will not suit our style of play. So I'm just saying, what do we lack in the team, and can that person add that to it? We do lack transition threat. We lack somebody up front that can, get on the ends of things. We lack ball striking. We lack goals. We lack inevitability. We lack charisma and audacity and confidence up there. We lack a focal point in the middle. We lack, so I think it's not so much about anybody coming in is going to have to adapt to our playing style, because quite literally nobody plays like us and nobody comes up against the amount of deep blocks that we do. But does he have the kind of qualities that we lack up front? Yes, he does. So I'm not really buying that shit. Newcastle don't play like us. So I'm not really fucking with that. Marco says people are overthinking it. Imagine we had a striker who scores 50% of the chances Havertz missed. It's simple. Dennis says playing style. We need someone who puts the ball in the back of the net. This playing style is so overrated and is why Edu and Arteta delayed signing a striker for 5 years. I want to win. Simple. Holland doesn't suit City's play style. Just get a striker. Honestly, we have Marino and Havertz playing up front. John P says Isak gets injured in the team when his team plays 2 games a week. He was injured as soon as Newcastle touched Champions League. Blaze says, why are some Arsenal fans acting like they coach and know more than the manager? Arteta is not perfect, but some fans need to calm down. Gyökeres and Zubamendi are not average players. Terrence says, we need attackers who have quality of ignoring cautious Arteta and bang goals. I think people are overthinking it. I think as a club, we overthink everything. And want this perfect signing that's going to revolutionize the way that we think about. And we have to get somebody that's kind of damaged goods and try to zhuzh them up and make them into the player that they're meant to be, which is what we did with Havertz and Jesus. And we see how that's worked out for us. Sometimes you just need to get the most obvious thing. And I think getting somebody who just obviously does the things that we need, that we don't have, inevitability, confidence, ball striking, lots of goals, that kind of player, somebody that's going to scare the shit out of center backs is all we need. We don't need to overthink this. Our playing style, but what is he going to do when we do in the blocks? And, what's going to happen when we play? I don't give up. I don't care. I really do think people are thinking too fucking hard. Like, give your brain a fucking, relax your brain, just for 2 seconds. Maxwell says Gyökeres can make our transitional attacks better, as it is something we lack on multiple playing styles are better, as it makes us makes us unpredictable. Dennis says Man City got Holland and didn't care about changing their play style and won the trouble. I mean, I just think, I've even seen people say today that BERTA usually uses smoke screens in the media. So, basically basically saying that, all the links that are coming out now are not true because BERTA usually uses smoke screens. And I'm like, every time you guys don't like a link, you galaxy brain a reason why either the link is not real or the player will not suit us. Because it's not what you want. And there's a lot of smart people in this fan base that have an answer or their argument or their narrative, and they can work back from that and create a really good argument around it to make that true. The reality is that there's probably no way that Ornstein is saying that we're really interested in Gyökeres, and it's not true. Common sense, history, credibility of this person is probably not a fucking smokescreen. It's probably not BERTA giving him a fake name, but we're actually working on Isak in the background. Come on. I know that we don't always get what we want. In my ideal situation would be able to go get Isak and still go get Nico Williams and still go get everybody that we want. But I'm going to take the next best thing because we got Marino and Havertz up front, so it's fine. It's not that deep, but I just feel like people are trying to find reasons why this can't be true because it's not the thing that they want and it's not how they build a team and the system and fuck this system. I don't care. Just get somebody who can score a damn goal. John says, I just want a striker, whatever striker in early so that they are ready to go day one of the season. Can I also say that Arsenal and Spurs playing each other in preseason in Hong Kong is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. What happened to playing teams that you ain't never played or seen before in preseason? What happened to, you know, going up against random teams from other leagues? Why do we have to play our rivals in preseason every season? When we played Chelsea in preseason and Ruben Loftus-Cheek flew through Thomas Partey's ankle and Thomas Partey was out for half of the season, I was like, that should have been the end of us playing our rivals in fucking preseason, because he was so desperate to impress Thomas Tuchel that he did something so stupid during preseason. Because when you're playing teams that don't care about you and you don't feel some type of way about, you do the preseason rules. You don't do stupid tackles, you don't hit people, you don't do dangerous stuff. But when he did that, I was like, we should never play a rival in preseason again. And what have we done since then? They've jacked up the prices and now we play all of our rivals in preseason. What the fuck are they thinking? What are they taught? Like, what is going on? This is not the game I love. What ever happened to just playing some random fucking teams? Like, you know what I mean? Like, God, bring that back. Simba says Man City wanted Kane but failed. In the next summer, they bought Holland and won the treble. Please move on with life. You're never going to get your first option always. Maxwell says, bring the most money. That's why it's so annoying. Nuances says, Isak is not moving from Newcastle anytime soon, at least not for a reasonable fee. We need to let that ship go. We missed it. Hopefully we don't miss the next one. Jess, you're speaking the truth. It's just annoying. And Marco says, I agree. So, sorry. So, what do we know? Arsenal are working on Gyökeres, working on Nico Williams, working on Juan Garcia, are operating on the idea that Zubimendi is coming in. What do you rate that window? Gyökeres, Nico Williams, Juan Garcia, Zubimendi. What do you guys rate that window? Not thinking really about, extensions and sales and all that kind of stuff. That particular window, those 4 players, what would you rate that window? And what would you also like to see come in with that? I think that's a pretty strong window. Sorry. I think that's a pretty strong window. Is it the strongest window ever? No, but does it fit most of the things that we're looking for? I think so. I think the only extra thing would be a creative midfielder. I actually think, unpopular opinion, we could probably go without bringing in another defender this one. I know that we'll lose Zinchenko and Tierney, but they don't play anyway. So essentially you'd have Calafiori, Miles Lewis-Kelly, Gabriel, Saliba, White, and Timber. And it would be a little close, but when you have a good attack, you can stand to have some fuck-ups at the back. It's right now we got to be perfect because our defense is the only thing holding us together these days. So if I had to go without one thing, it'd probably be the left back. Fuck it, let's just fuck it, we ball. And then whatever money is left over, whatever sales could get us an El Canus or something like that. Maybe if you got it like that as Xavi Simons, but another creative player, because I would anticipate Fabio Vieira leaving. And I know a lot of people don't rate him anyway, but we need somebody that you can bring off of the bench in midfield to add a little bit of something extra. So yeah, Marco says if we sell Zinni, we're going to bring in a versatile defender. Oh yeah, Kivior too. I'm gonna go. Johnny D says I always wanted Gyökeres. Isak has looked feeble under pressure in some games, and Arsenal's pressure is 3 times Newcastle to offer in pressure. Imagine he flops, we're dead and buried. Maxwell says 7.5 out of 10. We need a creative midfielder like Nipin. Devel says 7 out of 10. I would say we need another midfielder. 8 if we're losing both Partey and Jorginho. 8 out of 10. Attacking midfielder needed for sure. Nuances says that would actually be a good window. 7 out of 10. I'll tell you what, it'd be the best window we've had under Mikel Arteta. I'll tell you that. That's better than the window where we brought in 6 players, where we got Sambi and Nuno and all of them. Because Sambi, Nuno, and Ramsdale are not at the club anymore. So essentially we ended up getting Ben White, Tomiyasu, and Odegaard. Tomiyasu was crocked. So now we have White and Odegaard left only, you know? So I feel like this would actually end up being the best window that we've had under Mikel. Because the window where we bought Declan Rice, that was a good window, but the Kai Havertz signing of it all really just it bumped it back so far. Not getting attacker in that window was horrendous. So yeah, Marco says Rice Timber Raya is looking pretty good. Very, very good. Burmy says 7.5. Sean says realizing we won't upgrade on Kivior unless we sell him, but we really need to do it. I'm willing to take a chance on a young raw center back provided he'd be afforded the minutes to develop. Can I be honest? I think the defender thing, if I was to bring in any sort of defender, it wouldn't be in the same form in which we have defenders now. I feel like Tommy's going to stay around. So if you can get him at least to play 50% of games next season, not even 25%, then that's fine. Because we're talking about we're not going to break up our center back pairing. To me, Calafiori needs to be moved to left center back indefinitely. And so that adds then there's the left back spot that's available. I would like us to bring in somebody who's different than what we have already. I think the reason why people like Tierney is not just because the warm and fuzzies and we thought he'd be a captain and stuff, but because he adds something different, an overlapping left back that just bombs up the side and adds a little bit of attacking, a good cross here and there, somebody that's a solid defender. I'd prefer to go get that than another left back, left center back that can't defend in wide areas and doesn't offer anything going forward or anything different. I like the fact that on the right-hand side, Timber and White are so different, but they're both really solid top players. The left-hand side, you have Miles Lewis-Skelly now, who's more of a midfielder playing in that position, who's doing a really good job. I really do think you need to move Calafiori into left-sided center back, which means that you have a new center back option. You have Tommy that can play across the back line, as you know, if we can keep him fit for just 15 games this season, because that's all it's really going to be. And then if you bring in a left back, it cannot be the same thing that we already have. I don't want a Schlotterbeck. I don't want another center back looking type of person. We have Calafiori. Buy an overlapping fullback, somebody in the mold of Anthony Robinson at Fulham, somebody like Gyökeres, somebody like that. We need something different, so if we did bring in something, I'd prefer it to be a different type of option than the same shit we've been seeing. It's boring now. Tabuki says, rather we got a cheap left back, get Mitchell from Crystal Palace. His contract expires this season. Big says, you evaluate success of a window midway through the season, not before or immediately after the window. People are scoring 7 to a window that hasn't even happened. I mean, you can predict, it's nothing wrong with predicting. We predict the way that the season is going to go before it even starts, so I don't think there's anything wrong with predictions. Paul says if Kivior is going, it looks more likely that we're going to get Jarrell Hato from Ajax. Terrence says, I bet we'll buy Hato instead of an attacking player. We are assigning scores to a window before the window even begins. It's just predictions. Nothing wrong with it. So yeah, I mean, do you guys see a situation where we get Gyökeres, Nico Williams, Zubamendi? All three of those are going to cost, let's just say, around 50 million. Excuse me. So that's 150 million off the top. You're going to bring in Juan Garcia. He's going to cost you 20 million. So that's 100. You're already at 170 million minimum. How much extra do you think we're going to have to bring in a left back and an attacking mid? I'm just trying to be realistic. And if I had to go without one of them, I still think it's going to be the left back. I don't think there's a world where we cannot add. I'd prefer us to add another attacking midfielder when I'd rather try our luck at the back with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7, 7, defenders that we have back there. All are pretty flexible and can play different positions. So yeah. But we have no other attacking midfielder except for Ethan. And Ethan's great, but he's still young and doesn't need all that pressure. Devel says, I think the club viewed those 3 signings as the main big signing, so they won't sign another big player. Android says, watching 45 minutes compared to live, I agree. We just need to buy Gyökeres in that case, or we'll be left empty-handed as the other teams will step up and we have no one left. Let's see. Sean says, to what you just brought up regarding a left back, I think the way that we assess left back utility would be influenced by Zubimendi's recovery athleticism being superior to Partey's and the difference that makes. That's a really good point. Swap Kudus and Nico, to me, that's an 8 out of 10. Android says, oh no, I did that one already. Devel says, if one of those player flops, it's on Arteta. 2 of those 3 have already been established. I get what you're saying with that. I know you guys are talking to each other, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see with the main signings that we already know about, Gyökeres, Nico Williams, Juan Garcia, and Zubimendi, how the club squeeze 1 more, if not 2 more signings out in an attacking midfielder and a left back. Do they decide to maybe keep somebody around? Would you, if you knew you were going to get an attacking midfielder, say after those 4 signings, you're only getting 1 more thing. If you knew that, you could get another attacking midfielder, but that will require you to keep one of Zinchenko or Kivior, would you do it? Because I'm telling you right now, yes, I would. If I knew that that's the only way we're getting an attacking midfielder, I'm doing that. But the idea of getting another left back and then still only having 1 attacking midfielder, when we know that that's actually been a bigger problem for us this season than anything else, is not having another attacker that we can add to the group, from midfield. Do you really want your midfield options to be Odegaard, Rice, Zubimendi, and Marino? And Ethan? So rather try my luck. I'd rather try my luck. Burmy says, that window sounds great, but it remains to be seen if it comes to fruition. I'm hoping the wage structure doesn't prevent BERTA from getting this business done. AMD says, between the 2, would you rather bring in Gyökeres or Sesko? I mean, I like them both. I feel like I'm leaning more towards Gyökeres now because he was never really like a real option before. Like Ornstein said, it was not the case before BERTA came in that we were ever truly linked with him in a significant and substantial way. And so thinking about it that way, now that he's more of a reality, I'm leaning more towards him because he has more experience. But I do really like Sesko. The idea of both Nico Williams raw and Sesko raw does. I don't want there to be any excuse for Havertz starting next season. Sesko coming in is a perfect excuse for Arteta to continue to play Havertz because Sesko is young, needs work, needs development. And so I'd rather bring in the guy that puts Havertz on the bench, so I think I'm leaning towards him, Johnny says, best Arsenal advertisement for the summer is Real Madrid game. If we bully them in moments, we will suddenly become very attractive to players, let alone if we do the unthinkable, dare we hope. Without Gabriel, I'm not hoping for shit. Without Gabrielle, I'm going to struggle to watch it. Brian says, I'm hearing a very vocal minority say that Declan Rice is an issue in Arsenal midfield. Sounds crazy to me, but do they have a point? I don't think he's an issue. I just think he's not what people want. I think because Arteta continues to play him at left center mid. I don't know how you guys watch our games and then think that Declan Rice is somehow a problem. I think we overthought the midfield, and now we have a couple of pieces that don't quite like the midfield that we have that had Xhaka, Partey, and Odegaard in it was so perfect and so perfectly balanced. Also, with Jesus and Zinchenko creating an overloaded midfield so that we always had control of the game and we always had an extra man and we could always find the balls in between the lines. Going from that to barely any really inversion from our left back, no real coming into midfield from our striker, and then having 3 pieces when we started off the season with, Partey at right back, and then that stopped, that didn't happen anymore. And then you had Declan Rice and Havertz and Odegaard. you have to take into consideration that the majority of the time that we've seen Declan Rice, the midfield has not been balanced. It's just not, that is not a good midfield, because you have one player that does not midfield, doesn't create football, doesn't get between the lines, doesn't create anything. So you have Declan Rice and Odegaard doing everything. Now we've kind of switched it where now Partey and Rice and Odegaard are there, but we still don't have somebody pinching in from other directions to create overloads in midfield. And we also don't have the same creativity that we had a couple seasons ago either, because there's no Jesus, So I just think that, I think Rice is amazing, and I think he's one of our best players and one of our most consistent. I don't see him as a problem. I think Arsenal need to make a decision. I think they need to decide, which I think they already have, but what position do they want him to play in? If he's going to play left center mid, it kind of is what he is. And then you're going to have Zubamendi. I've said this in multiple streams now. That midfield is a workhorse midfield. It is not, a 6 and 2 8s, a 6 and 2 10s. It's not any of the stuff that people really want. They want a different style of midfield. The midfield style that we're going to go for is the workhorse midfield. There's nothing wrong with that midfield. It just is going to require your attackers to be much better than what they are now. So Declan Rice to me is not a problem. Sorry. Yeah, I just don't see him as a problem. I just really like him. I think he's really good for us. But let's go ahead and get out of here. Just want to do a little shorty. I'm going to go watch the football now because I think the games have started now. But make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Tomorrow, I may do a watch along for Spurs Chelsea. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But you guys know Diluted and I will do shows tomorrow. And then I'm also going to be on Mo's channel. So make sure you guys tune into that. Like and subscribe on your way out. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.